kind of like a, I think people like Mike because I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I have
You just see how games and possessions are more intense, how they mean more.
I'm not putting him on.
I think the U.S. is going to obviously win this.
April 2025. Welcome to Slop World, how the hostile internet is driving us crazy. Jacob Silverman. December 2024. The Oxford Dictionary shortlisted slop as the word of the year. The Washington Post then published an op-ed saying that it should have won. September 2024, Max Reed for the New York Times Magazine. Drowning in a slop, a thriving underground economy is clogging the internet with AI garbage. Many of these incredible publications have written about slop, but I have to say, the first time I ever heard about slop was on the TrillBroDude Twitter. Mr. Sloppenheimer himself being like, Shams fresh slop under like a Brooke Lopez 2-year extension in 2023. And so I did so we have the kings of slop of the Ball podcast, TrillBroDude and Sam Sheehan. Of course, we are joined by Patrick Redford. My name is Harry Krinsky. I need to ask you guys, I know this because I went and looked it up. When did you guys what's the first recorded use of slop that you guys know of?
When did you get gooped up for the first time? Yeah,
I think the first time that someone used it was in our Discord in 2021, I want to say, or maybe 2022, beginning of 2022. I honestly don't even know. I know that the whole term slop itself came from me being like, we're all little piggies in here. And then I don't know if someone said we're just looking for slop or what, but it started back in 2021, 2022, and because we had like a fringe, like not like an insider or anything, but like someone who like covered the team, wrote for like Liberty Ballers or whatever, and they would sometimes get scoops and they would often be wrong. But like we all get things that are wrong in the rumor sphere. Like if you're getting information, sometimes it's good slop, sometimes it's bad slop. So at the time, before we had coined the term, we're like, we're all just little piggies looking for slop. So long story short on this, that was the first recorded use of it to my knowledge. And then we literally just had Jake Fisher on the playback stream that we did, and it's up on the Patreon now, but he was one of the first people to use it and take it to like the next level. He talked about it on Dunked On, and then which is like the ultimate like pervert mode, transaction pilled platform to talk about it. And then we started, Sam Vecini started using it, and the No Dunks guys started using it, and that's kind of how it caught on, and then it has set the NBA Twitter sphere ablaze.
Yeah, and we're trying to catch Obama's eye. Yeah, well, we want Obama to use it in the new year. Is kind of what we're hoping for.
He's a Dunked On subscriber.
He's got the premium subscription.
Danny, don't let him talk to you like that. Nate, you're right about China.
John Hollinger, I agree with you on Afghanistan.
Okay, well, the earliest that I found was, this all checks out according to your timeline, on the Uniball Patreon, just a 8 a.m. Eastern early morning podcast live stream, Jay Crowder Slop.
That might have been the first use of it. Yeah, because it was Sixers were tied to Jay. This is perverted.
This is a bad string of nouns that's happening here.
I think we were tied to him, and we had already been using it in the Discord to that point. But that was the first time I probably used it publicly on the YouTube and the Patreon, and we had literally just launched the Patreon, if I remember correctly. So that was probably one of the earlier. We had been using it for a few months, but it definitely did not reach the heights until 2022, 2023.
Yeah, I might not have even been on the show yet, or I might have just been a guest star. Yeah.
You would float in here and there. Yeah. I was gonna say, because Sam came on as his NBA Sam Sheehan character, which is definitely not the same guy as Sam that sits here with us. I think that was a few months after that. I don't even think you had, or no, you might have been on a few months before. But long story short, it predated Sam even joining the podcast.
Yeah. How does it feel to be right? Like, I feel like as legacies go,
Right wing?
Sort of correctly understanding that we're all just piggies eating out of the same trough, and the whole squad is just we're oink oink oinking. Like, I guess you're sort of it. You must feel good, but also like, is slop itself a positive phenomenon? How do you used the phrase "good slop" earlier, which sounds mildly contradictory?
So Jim Gaffigan had an old bit about this years ago. When I was growing up, I was a huge stand-up comedy fan, and we had talked about this the first time that I was on. And Jim Gaffigan had a bit where he said everything is McDonald's, which is like, if you like reality TV, that's McDonald's. Like, that's just your version of it. We all have one thing that we glom onto that is, you know, a guilty pleasure or whatever you want to call it. And I am someone who has multiple. Me and my girlfriend watch reality TV all the time. We watch all that trash. We're like so hipster that like Love Island's blowing up here now, and we're like, yeah, we heard about it in 2017. It's not even a big deal to us because we watched the UK version already, and the Australian version, and the South Africa version, which was the most racist show I've ever seen in my entire life. You can imagine it.
South African Love Island.
South African Love Island that I think when we stopped watching it on episode 3 or 4 had 2 black people in the whole show and a majority black country.
That's like literally a Come Town bit from like 20 years ago. Like, straight up. Yeah.
Like Israeli D'Angelo Russell is on that.
Well, there was that tweet going around that was like, Love Island feels spiritually Israeli, which like I think is sort of correct. But then finding out that there's a South Africa Love Island, it's like that bit is going to become literal like way too quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, Love Island is, I said this last night on our stream that Love Island means that fascism is like fully taking over your country whenever it like blows up. Like Australia and UK are just a little bit ahead of the curve from us. Like, you know, it blew up there post Brexit. Australia always has some weird shit that you hear in the news about their like right wing politicians. South Africa's the OG. They're like the fucking, you know, the Miles Davis of racism. And they very much ahead of the curve on all of this. But America is finally starting to just like literally dive headfirst into the slop, and Love Island blowing up is kind of the perfect parallel for this day and age, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, I think what has kind of captured the imagination for slop is, you know, we're talking about content. You know what I'm saying? Slop is the more honest description of content. Is what I would say. Like you have an entire Twitch. Like content creation is a whole thing. And the first time I heard that term, it like literally made my blood like curdle. Like I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And eventually like like I had it beat into me like the way if like you're locked in a outhouse and it's tipped over on you. Like after the 3rd hour, you're like, I guess it just does kind of smell like this. I'm used to it now. That's I got used to that phrase, content creation. But like that really is like one of the most despicable like things that has ever kind of crawled out of this, you know, this American cultural moment that we have. And I think that like, you know, the second the seal was broken on content creation, I think that like that was when we saw kind of AI take off as like a viable, you know, thing, because you could, once the seal was broken on the slop, like you just have to like you just need more spigots of the slop, you know what I'm saying? Sure. And nothing is faster and going to create more slop than AI. And that's kind of the, you know, the moment that we are living in, you know,
with the exception of one person, which is Shams Charania.
Yes.
He is the only human.
The man looks at his phone for 20 hours a day. I don't think that has to give you some sort of eye cancer. I can't imagine that is good for you. But I just real quick, I was going to say, AI slop when I was growing up was when I was 15 years old and I fell to my knees when I learned that we traded Allen Iverson for Andre Miller. Am I right?
Let's go. Amazing. I mean, like, you even have Chris Haynes, like, tweeting the Dalays, D'Angelo Russell, like, AI, like,
what a 24 hours for Chris Haynes.
He's so awesome, dude.
I checked his YouTube channel this morning. As listeners of the show will know, we talked about Chris Haynes' Haynes Briefs, where he made this brief pivot into trying to become like kind of a YouTube guy. And of course the phrase, am I trippin', is like burnt into my brain, like a permanent signature. You can go listen to our episode. Ak was on it about throwing the squatters out of his house.
It's so great.
He hasn't released a Haynes brief in like 2 months.
There's no
So-
more slop drops in his Hanes briefs.
No, my
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but there was something I was hoping to get it onto Ox radar the other day, but he's now the reporter for the Big Three. I'm sure you guys are aware of this,
yeah.
right?
Of course,
so he hangs out with Ice Cube, and he will just post their screenshots and clips of their conversations, and they have some pretty amazing stuff. I'll send it to you guys if I can remember, but or if I can find it. But Chris Haynes is one of the greatest content creators of our generation, because it feels like I feel like he's kind of been like jobless for like going on like a year and a half now. He's just kind of floating between gig to gig, and he still is somewhat relevant though. Like he's still like in the public eye, but he's just kind of hanging out with players and shooting the shit at the Big Three.
Did you guys happen to see the clip of Dwight Howard and who was it? Michael Beasley Dwight Howard being like, "You tried to fuck my sister."
That's what it was. I literally have the meme right here. Yeah, it's "You tried to fuck my sister," and then Dwight Howard says, "What?" And then Chris Haynes is just covering his face, and it says, "Do you know this, Cube?" And then Cube said, "That's a deal breaker."
this is
Liz
like-
Lemon. He's going Liz Lemon mode. That's a deal breaker, hun.
This feels beyond slop. This feels like just sort of pure liquid. Like we've moved past slushes and slurries into something that's like totally in a different phase of material reality.
Yeah, we're in the
It's
goo
now
phase.
goo.
Yeah.
Welcome to Goo World, baby.
Yeah. The goo is everywhere. I mean, I think that like the thing about like the slop that the good slop that we're talking about, and I think what captures like basketball people's, like fans, people of the sport, slop is by definition amorphous, right? Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking to root through the slop to find, and you get your little grain of truth that comes out, and either it's a winner and it's something you want to see, or you go through it and you pick it out and it's D'Angelo Russell signing with your team or something like that. And so I think that we are kind of hucksters in a way, because we are selling hope. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all
it is.
That is what slop is. Like we
Why
are
do you
kind
think
of.
a Sixers fan hosting the podcast is the fucking reason that
of
ball
course.
caught on in the first place? All we have is slop. All we have
Yeah.
is the fake false hope, and that is ultimately what slop is about at the end of the day.
It's copium. We're selling. We are drug dealers. We are selling raw, unadulterated copium to the masses. But the difference is we'll smoke with you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. We're not like the Sacklers. We're not gonna go to court for this.
Yeah, we're not giving you anything we wouldn't take, man. See, it's good. Like
As a lifelong Kings fan, hearing you guys have this conversation, talking about how bad it is to be a Sixers fan, I feel like a dead guy just watching you talk about how bad you have it.
Yeah, your life, quote unquote, is awful. I'm sure that sounds hard. By the way, the Kings probably creating one of the most deranged teams I've ever seen this offseason. I mean, it is
demonic.
Every piece.
I want to talk about this.
Every piece of information that comes out about the Kings is like, if I said this on the podcast a month ago when Halliburton and they were making another run and all this stuff. I was like, I would have given up so long ago of having any sort of like hope or idealistic outcomes for the team potentially. And then every year it seems to get a little bit more like parody satire, like comical, to the point where we're getting reports that they're interested in not just Dennis Schroeder, who's playing on his 10th team now, who's like a solid NBA player, but once again, 10th team in less than 10 seasons. And then on top of that, they're also interested in Russell Westbrook, and their core is currently Sabonis, Monk, Fox, and DeRozan. Or I'm sorry, Levine and DeRozan. See, I'm still saying old players' names because they trade so fucking often. But Levine and DeRozan, and obviously Keegan Murray's still there. I'm like, what is this team?
I am so excited for this forthcoming Kings season. Do you understand how hard it is to be like bad, but like this genre of bad, like totally listless, no present hope, no future hope in the parody era specifically?
Yeah.
Like you look at the West and it's like, 13 teams are going to compete, and it's like 12 of them should, and the other one is just so fucking stupid. Like they are really creating the most evil basketball team of all time, which is like would be impressive in its own right. But what I find sort of particularly like, if you remove your own personal stake from it and just treat it as an abstract exercise in like denaturing. I mean, this essentially personifies like the concept of slop, because what you had is Scott Perry, whose big splash when he was with the team for 6 months before he tricked the Knicks into hiring him, was signing Zach Randolph, Vince Carter, and someone else who sucked. That didn't work. Amazing. And then he was still got to become the savior and join this team. And he did basically the same thing again, just signing a bunch of old guys who suck shit. And they did that like 2 years after this beloved team that was playing futuristic basketball. It is like honestly impressive to do such a bad job so quickly. And like, if you're the only rational position, I think, as a Kings fan is accelerationism, because like something is going to happen, and whatever happens is like almost guaranteed to be really, really, really funny.
Accept it.
And I'm just like I said this a couple times, but I was at the game when Jaden Ivey hit that 4-point play that got Mike Brown fired, and it felt like I was like alive for the first time in 3 years. Like, I love
especially
this shit.
Jaden Ivey. Not that you feel any remorse over taking Keegan Murray, but it is very funny because Keegan Murray and Jaden Ivey are similar level basketball players. Murray, and I would say Keegan Murray at least has more of a
positional value,
right, and a desirable skill set by like whatever the market dictates or whatever. Yeah. But it is very just comical that it could be the Jaden Ivey. It is just poetic in a way that it really everything that happens with the Kings is just so funny. Like the point that we always go back to slop wise is the 2021 draft, when they have a year off of drafting Halliburton and getting this steal with the 12th pick in the draft. They just gave De'Aaron Fox a max contract. They're starting to kind of figure things out, and there are multiple players that would make a lot of sense for them on the board when they draft. Now, they probably wanted Franz Wagner. I'm guessing that's who they hoped fell to them in that draft, if I remember correctly.
That's who I wanted them to take, yeah.
And I think because everyone was like, "Oh, this is such a Kings pick because it's low upside." And you would have gotten Halliburton and Franz in back-to-back years, who were seemingly quote unquote low upside players that turned out to be like stars at different levels in the NBA. So the reason I bring this up is because the pick that everyone logically said was just draft Şengün. And if you take Şengün, who was a productive player, MVP of his league, he makes more sense for this roster. And then instead you draft Davion Mitchell, who does not fit with your other 2 point guards you currently have on the team. And then you turn around and you trade for Sabonis, who is a Şengün variant. You trade away Tyrese Halliburton to make that work, and then you eventually have to trade away Davion Mitchell, and then eventually you have to trade away De'Aaron Fox.
You salary dump Davion Mitchell, and then find yourself 2 years later with Mitchell getting signed to a second or third contract by the Heat, and they're being like, "We don't have any point guard. Time to sign some evil guys." It's so fucking cool. You go from too many point guards who are all the wrong type to then like, oh, no one on this team knows how to dribble or pass the basketball.
Yeah, I want to be clear though. I said this the second the trade happened. Davion Mitchell would suck on 29 NBA teams, and he happened to go to the Miami Heat, and that is the one team he is going to be weirdly good on because Spo always figures out a way to maximize that archetype of player.
I have to say real quick while I was listening to Patrick talk, are the Kings America's team? Just in terms of like mirroring America.
Falling upwards?
Failing upwards, just the accelerationism, like the only hope is accelerationism. Like, like, is that the true mask, the true face of the Sacramento Kings is to, kind of, cause I mean, wasn't that, the team that, the Lakers, wasn't that this going on at the same time that Al Gore was losing,
2 years later,
Yeah,
right?
2002, yeah.
So, and that was like kind of the divergent paths, right? Because that was like when things really got dark,
Yeah, like, Chris Webber is Al Gore.
Yeah, Chris Webber is Al Gore. He blows out his knee, and I guess him inventing the internet is like being a couple decades ahead of his time as a passing big, maybe.
Yes,
or no,
absolutely.
it's really, if you want to go back to my favorite piece of slop maybe of all time, the Warriors selecting him with the first pick in the draft, trading all these first-round picks and Anthony Hardaway away, only for him and Don Nelson to end up hating each other. He hits free agency, and they sign and trade him a year after they drafted him with the first pick in the draft to Washington. Yeah. Unheard of. They had to change the CBA so that couldn't happen. And then Weber was thought to be kind of like a failure for the first few years of his career, finds his footing in Sacramento, becomes an all-star, Hall of Fame level player now, and kind of still a weird what-if story.
This is an extremely compelling theory that, like, I think it like resonates with me a lot. Like there's definitely a lot that I find compelling here, but I think the thing that makes it really sting is that the Kings and the Warriors are sort of this like faintly cursed dyad. And what I like about the Warriors is that like Harry has been pilling me in various DMs and chats for about a week, and I've been trying to just tell him like, I don't think this works, but like I really like that you're doing this. I would like to put you on the spot and ask you to explain the theory of Warriors as zero interest rate phenomenon, otherwise known as ZIRP.
Well, all of this is making me think that there's a what's the guy who wrote Palo Alto? Malcolm
Harris.
Malcolm Harris.
Harris, yeah.
There's a chapter in his book that's like after he's talking about a kind of like 700 pages of a sort of slow road trip that a group of like inquisitors took. He's like, and then the Kings and the Warriors started in Silicon Valley. But okay, yes, what you're saying, all of this about this, the Warriors kind of being the NorCal Kangs or like Kangs 1.0 does add to my theory that we have now just accepted that the Warriors are a sort of like tier 1 dynasty, tier 1 kind of like a franchise. They're the big market, people want to go there, all of this stuff. But it really has only, has really only been the case from basically the period of time when ZIRP was in effect, when from 2008 to 2020, 21. And pre that, they were these like stupid, Don Nelson teams that had Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Troy Murphy like bumbling around. And then
people do
afterwards,
forget that though. Like, I feel like the Warriors, like people think that the Warriors were just always the Warriors. And we just talked about with Ace Bailey in the draft, right? Like how he didn't want to go to certain teams.
Right. It'd be the Warriors, yeah.
And then Steph went there and changed everything. And now
Obama changed everything.
by
09?
Came into office?
Let me just hear me out. Because at first I was like, oh, this is funny because it does actually work timeline-wise. Like 2008, they were bad, then they got good, and then ZIRP ended, and now it seems like they're like floundering again. But then I was like, all right, the main things about ZIRP on an economic level was like a bunch of money went into Silicon Valley because it wasn't going in Fed or people weren't taking out bonds anymore or whatever. And then afterwards, this sort of enshittification. All of this money that went into Silicon Valley went in part through VCs run by Joe Lacob, in part, it deep into Joe Lacob's pockets. He then buys the team and, that's this huge boon, right? Then the Steph Curry relearning how to walk is another sort of second order ZIRP thing because it is the intersection of this kind of like a new age science tech thing that only people in the Bay Area were talking about around this time. Again, because all these fucking freaks are moving to the Bay Area because there's all this money getting pumped into the Bay Area from ZIRP. The most
is the second timeline. Sorry to interrupt. Is the second timeline Joe Biden? I needed to get that take off anyway.
The second timeline is Joe Biden. Yeah, there's something about we'll figure out what we
got a minor win 2022. You still hold on. Just like the good old times.
We'll try to figure out what that is in a second. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say and my friend. I had a friend, James, and he was a wise man. James Wiseman. And he was second pick overall, man. And I forgot what I'm saying. And my friend, we took him 7. I called him cum bucket. I can't say that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Moody Moses.
Moody Moses. God damn it.
The Wiseman pick is us leaving Afghanistan.
John Hollinger just got chills. He doesn't know why.
I'm trying to think who Eric Pascal is.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh my God, Eric Pascal is like
Eric Pascal is Rahm Emanuel. I like that. Or one of the clowns.
I was gonna say, but that would have been because that was during the tank year when Eric Pascal had his like Mickey 2019. So it could have been someone who was running for president against Biden.
He's like Julian Castro or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the remember they had 75 people run for president that year.
That was tight.
One of those people that was propped up and was I don't know, Amy Klobuchar or something along those.
Ella Emhoff.
This would make Bernie like someone they didn't trade for.
Halliburton.
Halliburton or
Josh Giddey,
or like packaging the picks and getting someone good like
Yeah.
Paul George or something. Yeah,
I feel like Bernie as Halliburton is a great parallel because think about how
Socialist,
perfect it would have worked, and that's the second timeline going right potentially.
Totally.
We're gonna have to go ahead. Take his Achilles.
Okay, yeah. The last big part of this theory is the Kevin Durant salary bump, which again does have these weird connections to ZIRP, which is again all this money going into Silicon Valley, all these people having more money to spend, both like higher end consumers having more money, but also like the billionaire class having more money to spend. All this money shoots into the NBA really quickly, and they need to negotiate a sort of spike in the CBA to account for all of this extra money coming in, and the spike perfectly aligned with them being able to sign fucking Kevin Durant. So and then now, of course, we are out of ZIRP, and we've got fucking Mike Dunleavy being like, maybe we'll sign Jonathan Kuminga to a,
And Ethan Sherwood-Strauss is pumped because now he can podcast about it for the next 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I guess in both timelines, continuing this politics basketball analogy, Ethan Sherwood-Strauss is Ethan Sherwood-Strauss.
He's the only that doesn't change.
Yeah. He's the constant. Yeah, like in Lost.
In every world, there will be Ethan Sherwood-Strauss. He is unavoidable.
He is inevitable. He's Thanos. He's the snap is him bringing Bogut to the Jordan Peterson lecture.
Oh, that's really.
I love Ethan, dude. Ethan is one of my favorite. Like he is one of my favorite ops. I can't lie. Like I'm always like he's one of those things where it's like I think he's like more interesting than like. Because I kind of think of him as
loves Ethan, dude. It's
I think of him as like kind of like the Red Scare for like sports people. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like I always tweet about them whenever I see those girls pop up on my timeline, like the Marilyn Manson, the old Onion thing, Marilyn Manson going door to door trying to shock people. Like and that's like very much like Ethan's thing. And I've been like monitoring Ethan for a while because Trump winning is kind of the worst thing that could have like ever fucking happened to him.
Yeah.
And
he's not counterculture anymore.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm like trying to like track his I'm like trying to track. He had like a really funny guest on. I want to like look that up because it was like very interesting watching him kind of like try to like pivot in real time to like not quite lose like his real audience, but he does need like an angle that like doesn't really exist anymore. I think he's like fascinating as like a cultural indicator because he is like trying to like obviously very cynically. He doesn't have any beliefs of his own, but like just trying to like read what's going on in the world. And I think that he was to your point, Harry. Though, like I think he was a great indicator of this ZIRP phenomenon, where you're talking about someone who is like kind of the Captain Ahab of like riding the waves of where we're going like culturally and like. When the money was good, when the Warriors were good, this guy could work for ESPN. Like now that's his enemy. You know what I'm saying? Now that's the white whale. Now that's Moby Dick. Now that's what he needs to kill. But it's
would you say it's the cathedral?
It's
is he Matt Taibbi or Glenn Greenwald in this analogy here?
I don't know. Like, dude, Matt Taibbi used to be one of my followers back in the day. This is very sad to see.
Wow, that's one that you definitely want to flex in 2025.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's having a moment, shall we say?
Yeah. No, I love when I get like a random Jonathan Papelbon followed me on Twitter one day, and I was like, why? I was like, is this the guy that used to pitch for the Phillies? And so I went on his page, and then I was like, oh, this guy is like a super fascist. So I did not follow back, but he can still read my tweets. That's fine.
Damn, we got to get him to listen. What were we talking about?
the ZIRP Warriors. But this is a good transition because I did want to do we've done already the two kind of temperature checks of the Warriors and the Kings. I want to hear how you're feeling, Sam, about the Celtics. Like How does it feel that even in snapping his Achilles, Tatum is copying somebody?
Okay, first of all, amazing. He did it better, by the way. I'd just like to point that out. He did it better.
No, it is. I'm joking. Of course, it sucks that both the injuries are terrible.
He's the Strokes to the Velvet Underground. Continue.
Exactly. Well, it's very much like I mean, I know cringe millennial thing here coming, but it's very BoJack Horseman with like the Mr. Peanut Butter. Like Dame started it, but I like to think we perfected it when it comes to ruining an Eastern Conference title contender. I mean this totally unironically, and like I am not gonna win any fans by saying this either in my fan base or I am genuinely more excited for the Celtics than I have been in like 3 years.
Welcome,
like
brother.
this is like I love team building, like pervert stuff, and like I think people like think I'm like doing a bit or like that I'm like trying to like make some sort of like I don't know, hipster fucking bullshit like point when I'm like, yeah, I didn't really like fuck with our championship team, you know, like that's not like really something I was, but I like really didn't, because I lost like the 2 guys I was like really invested in, like Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, and then like winning the title without them really was like some sort of fucking ancient Greek like kind of punishment where I actually like didn't really enjoy the title like at all. So I get to go back to my like what I enjoy, which is like building the team, like watching shitty basketball, like having like no stakes. And I think it's going to be now if they trade Jaylen Brown and Derek White, I immediately disavow all of this.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say it is July 1st when you're saying this. There's still other things that can happen because then you'll have legitimately no connection to the team at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, you do get to like watch a rebuild again, and I'm sure like this
Amari Williams.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Shulga.
Like, I understand like because this is good, very like spoiled brat like behavior. Because I know some people are just like for example the Kings, Patrick, like just you're trapped in fucking like this Sisyphusian fucking nightmare over and over again. It is one of the most one of the most rewarding things in sports, though, is watching your team rebuild and then developing guys. You know, like I think that was like very cruelly ripped away from you, like with the beam thing, like, and that's like the most painful part of it. But
we're not talking about me. We're talking about you.
Okay, all right. I'll put it back on me. No. I think there's a real opportunity here for the Celtics to like kind of. I don't give a shit about Kristaps Porzingis, man. Like Drew Holiday, like a pro's pro. I think it's really funny that he goons and is like very horny on Instagram, like on like visibly. That's awesome. I don't really like. I thank those guys for the contribution to the team. Like I don't really have like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are kind of my only guys like left on the team, and like Derek White got there, but only after like that big game-winning moment. You know what I'm saying? These guys need to have moments to like have like an attachment to them. You know what I'm saying? And
totally.
Maybe I'm like my brain is broken. I'm 35 years old. Like it's I've seen so much winning that it's like a
To be fair, Sam said this the second they traded away these guys too. This is not like a thing that is he's going back on it now. Like the second they traded Marcus Smart, he was crushed. Then they traded Robert Williams, and even though everything worked out, he was still. You could tell it was a little bit half-hearted at a minimum. Like I know that Sam obviously everyone enjoys their team winning, but I do think that there is a little bit of it does feel a little bit empty when you're just like the Yankees when they used to just and I guess that would be I don't watch baseball anymore, but I'm assuming that would be the Dodgers nowadays where it's like it's cool to win championships, but also what's really the point if you're just the team that spends the most money instead of like watching Steph Curry become Steph Curry.
You need like a tethering presence. I think that's the humanity of it. I don't know. I do think that like some people don't watch sports that way.
Millennials are way more hopecore than I feel like. Like I feel like we all have a little bit of Sorkin in us for sure.
Yes, yeah. I guess that is kind of that's kind of the millennial thing too. You know what I'm saying? I think we do want to have like. We do want to be inspired. You know what I'm saying? Like
we want to own the haters. He wanted to, he knew everything.
I just, the cynics have like won so much in our generation. Like, it is, you do kind of want to believe in some sort of something like at some point. And I do think that like, there's a way to watching sports, like in particular that I think not to be, not to slander anyone, but I think that kind of the smart way to watch sports, I think when you end up with smart people watching sports is that there is this like narrative connection and like genuine human like interest in some of that. And I think you kind of need that tethering factor.
But just real quick, like this is why I feel like Sam says I always try to start like a generation war, and it's not that. It's more that like I see, like, for example, Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers take him with the 21st pick of the draft. He has this amazing story where he had a bad year in college, the COVID year. He ends up falling to them in the draft. They take him. He becomes an all-star. He's playing with Joel Embiid and James Harden. He has all these amazing moments throughout his first few years. And then the second Joel Embiid gets hurt and he's thrust into a role where he's not qualified for it, there's a large chunk of specifically younger fans that don't maybe feel the kind of warm things that Sam's talking about this connection, because it's all I see this a lot with Warriors fans specifically because Steph is their guy. Embiid was our guy in terms of like he was the guy that we wrote, but like Steph, obviously had so many highs that it feels like when the front office isn't actively turning every stone, it's like a personal attack on them, as opposed to like teams usually don't win 4 championships. And like you've now had a 12-year window with one of the greatest players of all time who should absolutely get every chance to win the championship, no doubt. But at the same time, like there isn't always a quick fix. And it feels like, especially a little bit younger people that probably grew up on the internet, just feel like maybe it's just like the dopamine rush of the slop that I literally talk about, where it's like, I see the chasing wins guys on playback and they're all like, how could we not like the Jimmy Butler trade was probably the greatest day of their lives, I'm assuming, because they finally made a move to like go for it, and it didn't end up working out this year, but like it's just kind of an interesting parallel to me for sure.
I love that the idea of the scene in the newsroom where they figure out they got Osama bin Laden, but it's like, we supermax Jaylen Brown. Tell him on the plane, we supermax Jaylen Brown.
You don't get to talk to the pilot. Look, I work for Danny Ainge. It's okay. You don't get to, sir. I wanted to be the first one to tell you. Kristaps Porzingis has been traded. We're hugging each other.
We just reported the slop.
So what was the Gabby Gifford shooting for the newsroom one then? Like what was that event?
That was Porzingis in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, this year.
That was Sam watching a man's soul leave his body during games.
That is like one of the most insane things that's ever happened, is that we lived through a pandemic, and then like you could have like an NBA player just with like a mystery disease for like 9 months, and everyone was, it's fine. It's fine. He's just sick.
Did he have long COVID? Like what happened?
Yeah. My read, such that I have one, is that there was this collective understanding that he has a broken soul, and that like entered his corporal body. And I'm like sort of not joking. Like I kind of think that is,
he's a demon.
Whether or not that is actually true, my sense is that there was a collective belief that was true, and that is what led to the lack of investigation.
It's like the power of negative thinking, basically.
Exactly.
What
Bad
Harry
vibes.
just said, what Harry just said is like when you listen to the Grateful Dead on acid for the first time, but for Sam specifically, where it's just like, this is speaking so deeply to my soul that like he's like, you just put into words what I've been trying to say forever, and I've never been able to put it into words because it was so hard to grasp.
I'm glad.
I look, I've never, because here's the thing. I know all Boston sports fans are like evil at their core, and I'm like a part of that. I do know that we are like the great Satan, and someday we will get our just rewards for what we've done. That said, I've never felt that way more than like watching like Celtics fans like shit on Jaylen Brown and then like big up Kristaps Porzingis. And I was like, this man has had like he literally is the team intern. He played like 0 games, had 1 good game, and is like white. Like he got fucking traded. And everyone was like posting like his teary farewells, like, oh my God, this guy loved that. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I've never been like more revolted and disgusted in my life as like a Boston like sports fan. And let me just say, there was like a time when Tom Brady's like bodyguards like shot at reporters at his wedding. So like there's a long laundry list of stuff there. Aaron Hernandez,
Sam was like,
we're not
beating the allegations. Very similar to Aaron Hernandez.
Yes, he did. He very definitively did not beat the allegations.
Are you excited for Peyton Pritchard to play like 40 minutes a game next year? People are gonna lose their damn
I
minds.
cannot wait.
I think I'm not gonna lie. I think he's gonna take like a massive step back, and it's gonna be like very funny for everyone who's like.
See, a lot of
involved.
people feel the opposite. A lot of people feel like he's gonna fill in because if there's like a horde of calculator rats online who seem to think that everyone could just become Jalen Brunson because Jalen Brunson became Jalen Brunson. And there is at least some statistical indicators that Peyton Pritchard could be really good in a scaled up role. Like there are some like, hey, when this player's, but also like we were working in the context where the Celtics, what I said like a year ago when they won the championship was it felt like they had solved modern basketball. It was like the algorithm of basketball was solved because they had like 5 guys who could catch and shoot. They had all these guys who could handle the ball, who could defend, who could move the ball. It was like, I was like, I don't even know how you beat this. And I guess the answer was, have really physical defense and hope that they get some bad injury luck that happened and some regression as well this year with the Knicks. But like the Pritchard thing is like, he's going into a situation where it's not quite the perfect pristine context that he's been playing in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's like he no longer just gets to A, play against backups, and B, have like a perfectly spread floor at all times around him.
And he's a really good one-on-one player. Like
Totally.
that was also what made Brunson special at his size, was that like he was a really extremely good one-on-one player that had like incredible balance and touch, and he never really got a chance to show it. But at least we had the Jazz series when Luka was out for the first few games and Brunson carried them. Like Pritchard still hasn't had that moment for me to believe that like, yeah, anyone could just do what Jalen Brunson did. Jalen Brunson is like a Steve Nash style, holy shit, how did this happen? I think if like you talk about like the greatest players post 27 or whatever compared to like how they started their careers, the short list for me is like Chauncey Billups, Steve Nash, Jimmy Butler, and probably Jalen Brunson now. Like there's not many mid-career leaps that reach that level that he has reached.
Yeah, and also like Peyton Pritchard, like he's running out of people to fight. He's running out of like Boston guys to fight. So he might need to like change.
Did he fight someone at some point?
He's fought so many people.
With his hands?
Yes. No, like this is like the thing you would like especially like his first few years of the league, there would be like, maybe it only happened like 2 or 3 times, but like there would be a new like blurry video of like Peyton Pritchard like out on the town just like beating the shit out of guys in like a fight. But because of how he looks, it doesn't really, because he's like, he's 5'11",
He's
or whatever.
Russell Crowe in South Park fighting around the world.
Yeah, literally like what he was doing. I don't know.
And in Boston, I mean, he could just slip into the crowd like
yeah, that could be anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Ra's al Ghul.
Just the Jason Bourne thing, like get some sleep, Pam. You look
They
tired.
they're the fight club of NBA teams, though. We talked about someone sent us a video years ago of Joe Maz literally fist fighting an assistant coach during practice.
Yeah.
One time. Like they were playing a pickup game and they scrapped like during the game. Mike Moser, he's now a Houston assistant coach.
Sometimes I pull that out, like if I want to like impress people at like parties. I just pull out the video we have that was like never been leaked of Joe Mazzulla just fist fighting a coach on the floor, because it's like before the game.
Oh yeah, and this was when everyone hated Joe Mazzulla's first year.
Yeah,
I tossed that in the Rye application. Sorry to steal Patrick's joke, but that
yeah, that's a line. That's an opener.
Wait, speaking of white people,
Danielle Haim, can I interest you in Joe Mazzulla fighting someone?
Wait, speaking of white people, Luke Cornett no longer plays for the Boston Celtics. He's another. I mean, Owen Phillips is sort of the lead guy here, where like all of Cornett's advanced stats are like, oh, this guy's like one of the best players in the NBA. Like he just does so much stuff. He's so good for them. Like he could clearly earn a starting role. He got like 4 for 41 for the Spurs. I don't know. Yeah, how does that feel? Like, are you a Cornett guy?
I like. Here's the thing. Luke's like good. Luke has like a very unique skill set in terms of like, I think he's like I think he's kind of worth what he got paid. Like I think if the Celtics weren't in the middle of a sale, I think if Jason Tatum hadn't torn his Achilles, I think if they weren't in like year 3 of the repeater tax, because that's the thing. Like it's fun to make jokes about like the Celtics being cheap, and they are, but like the goal here is they want to get under the tax to reset the repeater to like go back, hopefully go back over it to like for this late prime Jason Tatum team, like at some point. So like, it just didn't really make sense with like the way the like everything lined up this year. They were going to be taking a gap year, so I think they got rid of it. I mean, I think like look, I think if you're a Celtics hater, you'd really like, well, they fucking got away with it again. You know, that this is going to be a guy who you remove him from the context and he just immediately turns into a lemon. I believe in Luke like a little bit more than like, you know, some of the other guys that's like happened with, but like, I do think like I think some of the rim pressure stuff I've seen is a little fucking absurd, where it's like, yeah, he's like 2 spots below Wemby. And it's like, well, that's not true. Like, that's like not a real thing, but you know, he can shoot threes. I think he's like a very interesting, he's got what I call the Sam Hauser defense, where if you're white and like look stupid, like people will attack you, but you're solid. So it's kind of a waste of a possession. Like it's the reverse racism is real defense. But yeah, I think it's like a fine deal, like to be totally honest. And I like Luke. I wish him the best. My bigger problem with like the Spurs is they're acting like they're like a contender, like gearing up. It's like, brother, get in the playoffs first. I'm like not sure. I know Wemby was hurt last year, but like I need proof of concept here. Like you guys aren't good yet. Like, and it kind of drives me crazy.
Your guy Carter Bryant though. Honestly, that was a good first step, I think, because they just we literally you know, I wasn't the biggest Carter Bryant guy in the draft, but like they needed normal wings and forwards, and that was the thing when we were like, how are they going to draft Dylan Harper when like their best players are Steph Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Wemby? Like it just doesn't really make any sense, especially when Jeremy Sohan's your starting 4. But you know, I think they're at least getting like real legit players on the wings and some big depth here with that.
Carter Bryant is my favorite kind of like lottery guy, which is like a guy who kind of sucked in college. Like there's nothing I like more than someone who's like super turbo mega toolsy. He's like 6'9", jumps out of the gym. You watch the highlights and you're like, #1 pick, let's go. And you pull up the stats and you're like, wow, this is like a band leader score is like 5, 6, 7. Like this guy can't do anything. That's a Sammer joke. I'm sorry to steal that. But
no, that's an interesting one. But the thing with Carter Bryant, we always have these guys, and I'm a little bit like my whole philosophy over the past few years is that if you're just going to be a guy who doesn't show me anything with the ball, I'm going to be skeptical that you have any upside beyond being a 5th starter or fringe starter. Like, I think in the modern NBA, you basically have to be the best defender in the world and like an elite shooter to like, I think OG Anunoby kind of broke our brains because OG was so like, we talk about his freshman year of college, he was like a bit role player, did not do anything, and then developed into like a fairly decent offensive player who's a world beater on defense. So anytime we see a Carter Bryant come into the draft, we go, oh, well, he could just be like OG Anunoby. That's like, OG's probably not he's probably more the exception as opposed to the rule. But the one thing I will say is that like these wing guys, they always suck when they're like 18. They're like,
that's right,
always bad. Like you could, if you really like nitpick through even some of the best wings of all time, they're like, their freshman year of college, the reason why Kevin Durant is an alien is because he was literally the best player in college at 18 years old, averaging 25 points efficiently, leading Texas to like an amazing record and becoming the 2nd pick of the draft as like a wing / kind of big almost. And that is legitimately unheard of. Like the large majority of like Paul George and Jason Tatum and all these guys are like role players. And if they're not role players, it usually looks really ugly when they're 18 years old.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about it so much, and like sort of what I like about the phenomenon of draft grades, because it expresses a type of certainty that doesn't exist, which is like obviously like these guys will have a varied spectrum of their performances. Like some of them will become superstars, some of them will be ass, and some of them will like fall anywhere in the middle. But like fundamentally, it is this exercise in uncertainty, both in like degree and kind, and like specifically with like your point about the wings being bad as 18-year-olds is so interesting because like they typify this because there's so much risk and so much uncertainty. And like, that is what I like about it. Like, I like not knowing shit and like being surprised. Like the Maxey thing, I think that's like basically the ideal type of guy to root for. And maybe this is my like applying Sam's millennial hopecore theory forward to the 2025 NBA draft as a way to feel not washed, but Man, I just love guys who are bad. Is my point.
I was gonna say you took more of a quote unquote sure thing, and Nick Clifford with the Kings at the end of the first round here. Whereas, like, no, look, some of these guys don't end up becoming NBA players. They could draft it at 22 or 23, but you have a decent feel of what their floor is probably going to be. Like, you feel comfortable taking them with like the 17th pick because you're like, worst case scenario, he's probably a 7th or 8th man, and like he can kind of play in our rotation. But I am very much like, I'm like, Sam's more of like the safe floor, let's get an NBA player type once you get past like pick 2 or 3. I'm more like, fuck it, we ball, like let's take a swing. I will literally put Ron Holland second on my draft board because like the moments that Ron Holland had last at the G League Ignite, while he was kind of ass, he's a wing who's like a crazy athlete that showed at least a decent amount of flashes. And I guess that was also the case for Ace Bailey this year. Like if you're a big believer in Ace Bailey moving forward, and I wasn't, because I just think the way that a guy like Ron is built is like, Ron was like, I'll do whatever the fuck you want me to do. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try my ass off on defense, I'll rebound, I'll do whatever the team needs me to do. Whereas Ace was like, get me to the Washington Wizards so I can take 25 shots a game, just like I did at Rutgers this past year. I've been a superstar since I was 14 years old, and let's roll. And like, that is, to me, that is inherently a bigger risk, because the large majority of good wings don't start out as stars in the NBA. They almost always start out as role players, and the guys that tend to force themselves into a role that they might not be ready for, I think the best case scenario you usually get out of those guys is something like Brandon Ingram.
Yeah,
Who's very good. Like, Brandon Ingram's talented. I mean, look, in the like McKinsey brain, like, he doesn't take the most efficient shots, and like, he's not the best scalable player or whatever. Sure, but like, ask any player, he's very much like DeMar DeRozan in like the way that players will talk about those players. To me, at least has to matter somewhat, even if it doesn't add up to like wins and the win column.
I wonder if there's almost a certain sense of like job security against algorithmic basketball in there, where it's like we have to deify these like disappearing mid-range specialists because that's how players like to play. That's like more fun. It's like less deterministic, and like, not to apply the ball don't stop thesis here, but like that is like a higher skill ceiling way of playing.
Absolutely. And honestly, did the Indiana Pacers not just prove that it actually, like, everyone on their team except for Nesmith pretty much had like a little bit of a mid-range bag? Like,
dude, that's all Nembhard did. Real hooper shit.
Nembhard, Siakam, even Miles Turner would run pick and pops, but a lot of those were like college level 3s, long 2s. Like, I think this is why I value someone who can handle the ball and create offense in a pinch so much nowadays, is because with the new rules, how the fuck do you guard a team like that when they just have 3 or 4 guys at all times who can do a little bit of something with the ball, as opposed to we're moving away from like, very funny I just said this because the Celtics had this, to be clear, a year ago, but like, we're moving away from like the Houston Rockets of 2018, and I feel like GMs like Daryl Morey are still stuck in that brain mindset, at least until last year he kind of was.
I would say that the big difference there, though, like, because nobody was rooting for the Boston Celtics, because that was machine basketball. That was like, versus like the Pacers were John Henry. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, like, this is everyone wants to see like that team succeed. They had the underdog
thing this year with the possession advantage thing.
That is like retcon. Another thing that kind of retcon make me dislike the Celtics 2024 championship more is how much I viscerally hated watching the Thunder win the championship. And I realized like, oh my God, this is how we won, but just with offense.
Math.
Yeah.
They just perfected it.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not fun to watch like an algorithm like win.
The Warriors, Spurs, Pacers, like high flying. Honestly, the Kings tapped into that for one season. We literally used to call them Pacers. The Pacers were Kings East. The Kings were Pacers West, and it feels like everyone's trying to always find the next advantage. And I do think that the Thunder, once again, every year after a team wins a championship, we want to be like, a new dynasty begins. But it does feel like the Thunder winning kind of, I guess, quote unquote, ahead of schedule would probably be the best in terms of, if you look at the next 5 to 10 years, probably the best chance to win multiple championships as opposed to the last few teams, because they have figured out a way around some of the salary cap stuff with the draft picks. And their core is so young compared to like all of the guys that won when it was Giannis and Jokic and all those guys, and even the vets on the Celtics were older. Like they weren't 25 and 26 and under.
But they're swagless. This is really what we're talking about. We're talking about the lack of swag. And this is what makes you, after you win the championship, you lose in round 2 because of the curse of swag. If you don't have swag, if you're not Steph Curry, you don't get to come back the next year. You don't get to to do that. I mean, here's the thing. We are in a position where we have like jesters privilege. You know what I'm saying? We have fans privilege. You know what I'm saying? We're like kind of what Patrick was just talking about, like where it's like draft picks. Like we want to see risks. You want to see like the math of building a team though is to build a machine. You know what I'm saying? Is to take the safe draft picks, just make another cog in the machine, kind of tamp down any humanity in these players and turn them into like just basketball robots. And like, that's what Jason Tatum is. And that is why like he is so disrespected by and large, is because it's like, I'm just a guy who plays basketball and takes care of his son. And everyone's like, boo, fuck you, you bitch. That sucks. Like, I want to see, I want to see something cool. Like, and
Kylie talked about this with Tatum, which is that he's just like the first normal superstar that and like in the most like average guy way that we've had in so much time. Whereas like we're used to like these players and these personas being built up over the course of years. And like, I mean, look, say what you will about Anthony Edwards' personal life, but everyone thinks that he's fucking hilarious. Send a video is like an all-time line. Even if you think about that for a second, it's kind of horrifying. What the context of that is. Like,
that's the raw charisma, though. You could say something that would like get anyone else canceled. Put that in anyone else's mouth, and it's like horrifying. So I used to have a hip hop podcast back in the day, and me and Jason Buford had a hip hop podcast, and we would always talk about why, if you were a character in rap, like Action Bronson could get away with saying something absurd and outlandish and everyone would laugh at it because it's Action Bronson. Or there was Kanye was like this at one point before all of Kanye, what he did. But if Big Sean said it, everyone was like, you're a fucking idiot and you're a loser because you're Big Sean. Like there's a level of charisma and there's a level of character that you have to build before people give you like essentially like street cred.
I agree with all of this.
Cloud online, yeah.
I do think there is a component of like heliocentrism at its core is a little bit boring and kind of like limiting, because I'm okay with efficiency. Maybe I'm just like totally doing something around my Steph Curry love, but
I was gonna say your Warriors probably.
I'm like,
you beat the Rockets. You don't have to do this. Like they were the team that you kind of proved the theory wrong.
Yeah, right. Those old Rockets teams, even like kind of like Luka's run, despite it being whatever, there is something. There is a letdown, kind of to what we started this conversation with around what are compelling narratives. The narrative getting short circuited such that it's basically like, is this guy going to make or miss this kind of easy shot? There's no room to breathe there. There's no, and the heliocentrism I feel like is at its core, which is why you have these two teams, the Pacers and the OKC, that did build these two machines, but the Pacers machine was so much more beloved because it wasn't it wasn't just built on like not making a mistake.
It was sharing the means of production and controlling
exactly. Yeah,
it wasn't capitalist and monotheistic in nature.
Okay, so maybe we could agree that like a machine is a bad thing, but when two machines fight each other, that shit rules. Like I thought the finals was so good. Yeah. And I think you can apply forward the lessons of the Thunder and team building, but I don't really think that's all that replicable. Like unless the professionalization of the lower levels thing, which if you want to hear a crazy guy talk about that, go back a few episodes. Unless that continues to the point that like every first round pick can play 20 minutes in the playoffs instantly. Like, I really do think it's not always just going to be like 12-man rotations, crazy depth, unless we can find a way to like clone Lou Dort, and I guess that's just draft Quebecois guys because the Pacers had one too. And so I think like also there's a read of the Thunder as a extremely heliocentric team. Like Shea just kind of did everything.
They were. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, totally. Like they're
I wouldn't even necessarily know if I would call them heliocentric. It just felt like they played kind of like pickup basketball in a way. You know what I mean? Like it was less like James Harden runs 100 pick and rolls, and obviously Shea took a ton of shots, but also like think about the peak of Harden when he was Harden. His stat lines were like 60 points, 15 assists, like, and obviously that was regular season. It didn't always translate to the playoffs, and pretty much never did. But like the Shea stat lines are like shocking when you see he took 30 shots, but he's also only getting like 2 or 3 assists. It just feels like a lot of the time they ended up playing, once again, their algorithm ball was turnovers and not turning the ball over. So like they cause you to turn the ball over, which led to, I talked about this, like, what do you think is the most efficient play in basketball? Because we always think about like a Steph Curry, I guess it wouldn't even be pick and roll, maybe like a dribble handoff from Steph Curry, or like a Jokic pick and roll with Jamal Murray or whatever. And my argument this year was like, was the most efficient play in basketball one of two things? Either Alex Caruso getting a steal because you knew that shit was going the distance, and he did that a lot during games, or was it like a Tyrese Halliburton defensive rebound and he could just push the pace in transition and it would lead to instant offense? Like teams have, they're always chasing something. For years we chased perfect spacing and shooting and whatever, and then it's course corrected over the last few years that it's been like more about like offensive rebounds and controlling the possession battle and not turning the ball over. And there's always going to be these ebbs and flows where like teams are just going to have to come up with their own style in order to negate whatever style is like dominating the game. And we'll go through 2 or 3 year like periods where everyone has like their own specific style, and then there will be a reverse of that.
Yeah, after Quebecois guys, it's going to be like actual French guys with Wemby, and then they'll find like another francophone place, and then it'll swing back. And it's an
Bilal Koulibaly back with Wemby duo is going to be a fucking movie.
Are Normans the new market inefficiency? Can we get a Norman player in there? Like, like that is that where this goes? Like, I do think the good thing about the parody era is I do think that we are returning to basketball as the Geist, you know what I'm saying? As the soul, you know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about the machine and how cool it is to like watch like the machines like kind of fight each other, and that is like awesome. The thing that was so tragic about this one is we got the John Henry matchup with like the Pacers and the Thunder, and only for like John Henry to have his heart attack like 3 minutes too early, like in Game 7 instead of after he beats the machine. So like is basically like what happened with the Pacers. I think right now I would be willing to. My bet for the NBA title next year is a team that isn't really fucking on our radar right now. I'm going to be honest. I think there's going to be some sort of strange thing that happened. I'm just going to use like as the Atlanta Hawks
like the
or
Golden
something
State
like that.
Warriors.
Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah. Or like one of these teams that like added something weird and new to their team, and it just unlocks like this weird chemistry of like this bizarre style of play that we haven't really seen. One of the things that, well, I think one of the reasons we are in this parody era is because once teams see what you do and like look at it, they can solve it. The problem is, I think you beat teams and win the title by kind of coming out of nowhere a little bit and being a little bit like different. Like I know the Thunder were good last year, but they didn't have Alex Caruso and Hartenstein. Like the thing with the
there's
Thunder
always at least
year,
one transaction that swings the title, and they had 2, but yeah,
but like their thing, like in the Dallas series, it's like okay, leave the alleged pedophile open in the corner, and like, and then they just are able to like. They got rid of it. Okay, we can't have the pedophile on our team anymore. Like we gotta.
And they learned how to grab a rebound.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think that there's a chance we're standing here like in like a year, and like that team might come up short. But it's like, damn, isn't it crazy that like the Hawks got there before somebody drew.
You could say the Sixers.
The spear of Longinus and fucking smited Kristaps Porzingis on the court for being a demon. Like, wasn't it crazy that the Hawks made the finals like before that happened? So I think that I do think that we're in like a very interesting place with the NBA, and I think we're finally banishing to kind of bring this full circle to like the slop thing. I think we're banishing the concept of the NBA as a product, which is another one of these fucking interminable fucking discussions that I fucking hate all the time. And the second you hear someone call the NBA a product, I want to fucking
we ban ratings talk from the podcast. I refuse to do the ratings talk.
That's funny. We were, for an episode a while ago, we were, or maybe toward when the finals was about, then we were, one of the segments that we didn't actually end up having time for was like, what are you going to remember this season for? And one of the things I was brainstorming for that was, this is the season where like smart basketball minds stopped talking about the ratings stuff. Like it was
right,
like,
because it was the thing of the past. Like who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And also just want to point out the Luka trade was so seismic. Once again, if you want to talk about slop ruling the world here, that really was what brought a ton of interest back. It felt like, at least for a brief period, where like, and that's why we went conspiracy mode on it. The night of the trade, I was like, there's something going on here. Like, this isn't right. And let's get to the bottom of it. Now, I literally said, do the Addelsons know that the country is about to, descend into nothingness? And, but what we didn't know is that they also would be gifted Cooper Flag a few months later. And the Lakers would also be sold for an insane price after they acquired Luka Doncic. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it's all connected.
And they're doing a casino/nuclear power plant outside of Nevada that's going to power OpenAI for the next 11 years.
That sounds great, honestly. Yeah, the Sphere will be the battery for it. I think it's all like logical and moral and ethical.
Like Cooper Flag is getting shorter? What's going on? He's got radiation poisoning. They're shrinking him?
Wolverine Cooper Flag is going to be a problem, dude.
It's so funny that team is entirely composed of people older than us and also Cooper Flag. Like it's just gonna be weird. Also, like, D'Angelo's the point guard, but like, is anyone else like shorter than 6'9", or like, can anyone else move sideways on that?
Brandon
whole roster?
Williams. So you've Brandon Williams pilled. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his game, but
yeah, he's fine.
He's probably the shortest player on the whole team. Him or Jaden Hardy, I would imagine. But no, you're right. Everyone else in that team is 6'5" and up, which Elton Brand tried before everyone else did, and unfortunately he forgot to acquire a single guard. Yeah. But 2019-2020 Sixers, a disaster or genius? Geniuses aren't appreciated in their time.
Totally. Can I ask a roundtable question?
Please.
Who is the funniest team that you could like make a halfway rational case for winning the title for next year? Like, I was thinking about Sam's out of nowhere point, and I'm like, what if the Raptors win the title?
They have no chance.
No,
if you want to talk about teams that have a realistic chance, and I actually am completely out on this team, and I've been fading them for years. But it would be very funny if somehow the Milwaukee Bucks won the title next year with Dame leaving. Honestly, I'm not just saying this just because I'm a Sixers fan. The Sixers would also be objectively funny.
Yes.
Just because we've all finally. My thing is that we've always said when you believe in the Sixers, they will always let you down. But if you just kind of ignore them and you're like, oh, way, Sixers, they'll be like, oh, the Sixers, okay. Like, they're not, Jared McCain and whatever. But they fold under pressure. They can't have expectations. The Bucks would be very funny just because the Damian Lillard piece of it to me would be so perfect, because Dame was thought to be this like small market quote unquote hero, like was going to lead Portland to a championship, and then ended up leaving for another small market to go play with a generational player, and things for whatever reason. People say the Giannis and Dame thing didn't work, and like obviously those two didn't maximize each other, but I also think it has more to do with the fact that like they had no other good players except for Chris Middleton and like aging Brook Lopez. And we've talked about like the importance of like availability and athleticism and young players and all that stuff in the modern NBA. They didn't have any of that, so obviously that didn't work out. But it would be very funny if like after the Pacers basically just gifted them Miles Turner, their bitter rivalry, while Halliburton is sitting on the sidelines watching them with a torn Achilles after, kind of owning them 2 years. They have a beef. There's a punking going back and forth where Halliburton's just kind of owning them, them winning the championship after losing Damian Lillard and Halliburton having to be kind of on the sidelines for all of it with Miles Turner, then getting over the hump with them. I think, especially if Doc Rivers is the coach, would be fucking hysterical.
All of that Pascal Siakam Hall of Fame 2 rings talk immediately shifts to Kyle Kuzma Hall of Fame 2 rings talk. That's good stuff right there.
There's like a already written article of like Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton, friends from foes to friends.
I'm thinking about them circulating that old Basketball Insiders draft night, the comp between Tatum and Kuzma, rings too.
There you go. He's up in the category now.
I think objectively the correct answer for what would be the funniest team to win the title next year is the Phoenix Suns. Would be,
or is it the Dallas Mavericks?
The Dallas Mavericks
would be.
Mavs would be really funny.
They actually have it, and I think they actually have a chance. I am a huge believer in Cooper Flagg. Obviously, I'm from Maine, so I'm going to like ride or die for him. Like that is
But if they're healthy, they're a good team. Too.
My mom.
That's the other part.
That is my mom's hometown. That's where my mom went to high school. Is like Cooper Flagg's high school. So I'm very in on Cooper Flagg. I do think like the problem is Kyrie's like not going to be back in time like to like do anything here. I do think if Kyrie was healthy, they would have like a puncher's chance at least. You know what I'm saying?
Kyrie tore his ACL. He didn't tear his Achilles. I do want to point out that the ACL recovery is a lot faster than it used to be. Now, would he probably be rushing back? Yeah, probably wouldn't be great. I think when that injury happened, it was like March, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, against the Kings.
If they get to the playoffs, there you go. Was it in Sacramento?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. It was something stupid like he. Yeah, anyway.
Sacred burial ground.
But also, I feel like for months we've heard like, oh, he'll be back. This is like he's going to make an 11-month recovery. Like for some reason, I feel like everyone's been talking about it that way.
We heard Jamal Murray too, and then they decided to sit him out. But Jamal Murray was also 23 when he tore his ACL. Like Kyrie might legitimately. I know he just got another bag for like 2 more years, I think, after this upcoming season. But like this might be one of his last chances. And we talked about like this with Halliburton specifically, like. Everyone was talking about, like, do you play him or not? Because we know with the calf strain, Kevin Durant, the whole story, we understand that. But it's hard to go to an athlete and be like, hey, I know you're 2 games away from the NBA Finals and being literally immortalized, and this is what you've built to for your entire life, but, like, we're going to have to shut you down, buddy. Like, these guys just are built different. And, like, they're not like you and me where, like, they're just going to be like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Like, they're going to play for it, and, like, they're going to balance that and hope for the best. And they were smart enough to get their first-round pick back from the Pelicans. So
What did they know?
You can really you can really tell the, like, players, you know, not being like us, being built different when the Giannis gives one sort of offhanded remark about how winning isn't everything, and then the response was like, does he have brain damage? Is he like
the first NBA player with CTE?
Yeah. Before we get you guys out of here, the one team I wanted to throw in the mix is the Monstars of the NBA, the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm ready to say I love this Pelicans team. They are demons. Speaking of whatever, we got Jordan Poole, obviously one-time champion Jordan Poole, DeJounte Murray, which I have to say makes sense next to Jordan Poole. Kind of a defensive guard.
He tore his Achilles,
yeah, he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, but he'll be back. Come on.
I think it was actually in January. I think we talked about like he might actually miss all of next season. Once again, ancient burial ground. The Pelicans are the most cursed. We went to New Orleans and we were like, this is unbelievable how injured they are. And it's
I mean, their shit is yeah.
It's the thing that blew me away. I was surprised how like loud it is. Like we were there, it was like a half-empty stadium. It was like genuinely. Maybe I have a skew because I
Sam, talk about who played in this game before you continue.
Okay. So first of
best
all,
player on the court was Jose Alvarado. Both teams. Yeah, both teams though. The Sixers and the Pelicans.
Yeah. Elfrid Payton got significant minutes. We went to the sloppiest slop off you've ever seen.
The Sixers run through the Sixers run. Not Marvin Bagley, Marcus Bagley.
Oh hell yeah.
Alex Reese, who you probably exactly.
Thunder guy, right?
I'll tell you when I recognize the guy's name.
Okay, Chuma Okeke, Demon Chuma. Okay, Jalen Hood Shafino. Does that do anything
former
for
first
you?
rounder.
Yeah,
Lakers.
Jared Butler, which if
that's your guy, right?
Oh, I love Jared Butler. Jared Butler was one of my favorite players in the 2021 draft. Unfortunately, he had a heart condition that ended up making him fall all the way to the second round. And then eventually the Sixers acquired him, and we literally thought Daryl Morey just did it for us because I had tweeted about him so often. But we cut him after the season. I was a little heartbroken. But I love the story of Jared Butler. Like, I want to see that guy succeed. Totally. But yeah, those are the best players that we rolled out there. So the
Chuma Okeke game, yeah,
love Chuma.
That's worth traveling
I hope we bring
for.
him back. Yeah, we traveled all the way to New Orleans where it was great. I think Adem Bona was probably our best player on ironically.
Yeah. But anyway, that game, so all those players you just listed, Trill and I are like on the floor. It was louder than any Nets game I went to. And I went to a Nets Celtics playoff game. And it was louder in there than like any Nets game. So it's like a kind of a bummer because I do think there are like genuinely fans there. It's just a uniquely cursed and like franchise, in so many ways. Like the Zion stuff, because I love being I get tricked by the Pelicans every year. I'm fucking the Charlie Brown, Lucy with the football. I love that shit. I love being wrong about the Pelicans and them losing 20 more games. Than
Pelicans and the Hawks have a special place in Sam's heart.
I love that shit. I just think that with Zion's, let's say, legal issues and like kind of what's going on with the team, I just don't see it in the cards for them. I think that they're going to end up trading Zion at some point, like in the next year, if not during the season sometime.
I mean, they drafted Derek Queen. Those two, you couldn't have two more incompatible players than Zion and Derek Queen.
I love Derek Queen.
You're among friends.
Love that guy.
We love Derek Queen too.
We love Derek. We're not sure. I'm not sure if he's a good NBA player, and I didn't want my team to take him.
To be clear, I was just like,
love him. Yeah.
That's a swing worth taking, in my opinion. Because if he's good, he's awesome.
He's gonna he will be the synthesis of all of this, where he'll be like making sort of like Dink, Andrew Bogut, Şengün style passes, but then also have this like incredible swag and footwork and deep bag to he will unite everything. He
plays like a drunk guy. I don't know. He's kind of like he'll make the most insane just absolutely on the dot pass and hit like a tough floater like midi. And then the next play, he'll throw it 10 rows deep into the. He's kind of like if you took Andre Drummond and mixed him with Zion, kind of like a synthesis of those two players in one. It's a fascinating thing to watch.
We don't need to actually follow this clause to its specific end, but he made me just think the phrase, "Have you guys seen that Vine?" Which doesn't matter what the Vine is. That alone pretty much tells you all you need to know.
Wow, that's really funny.
Just last thing before we get out of here. Shams is on ESPN. I just want to talk about, I think Shams is literally giving himself brain damage by being on television for so long this week. He said, the summer of contemplation continues for Giannis. Sources say it's not more than today. He will continue to consider if he could win in Milwaukee and then look himself in the mirror and make that decision. I feel like the Miles Turner thing, are we stupid? This is very, I think that Giannis, because he has such an amazing story and he's one of the greatest players of all time, and he seems like a genuinely good dude, has kind of skirted all of the hate that LeBron and KD got for years for being a player GM. Giannis has very obviously been behind all of these moves that have been terrible for years now. In my opinion, also including this Miles Turner and wave and stretch of Damian Lillard. But the Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard trade, which I thought was a reasonable swing at the time that didn't work out. The Kyle Middleton for Kyle Kuzma thing. These are all guys that he had connections to, he worked out with at some point or had what. It is very obvious that he is kind of part of this whole operation along with John Horst.
I think he has to maybe he actually is sad and fucked up, but maybe he has to pretend to be sad about the Dame thing just because
he's doing the Drake when Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. That's what I tweeted immediately.
Yeah. That is kind of what it feels. And also maybe this is just because Chris Haynes was the first one to report that Giannis was all sad and fucked up. And just because anything having to do with Chris Haynes in this deadline specifically, I am primed to think that whatever he says is the opposite of what is actually happening.
Well, this is the power of kind of American culture here. He came to America not knowing what a smoothie is, and now he's doing double speak, slop, PR, deep state
he's got
stuff.
Blowjob buttons.
Yeah, well, and that, and he's got the blowjob button on Instagram Live. Another Shams turn of phrase he used today was speaking of the Damian Lillard extension. From a business perspective, he gets all 113 million paid to him.
That's where I want my money to go. Paid to me is one of the best.
Very Job from Arrested Development coded.
I got to add that to the document for the Shams Charania Award for excellence in divulging of information through syntax comprehended by many. That's a prime contender.
Oh my
I love
God.
that.
All right.
Gets the money paid to him, Michael.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was really fun.
This is awesome.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah,
This was so much fun.
Yes.
Hey,
Where can people support, find you? What's going on?
You guys are going to be on our podcast next week, so we'll probably have more slop to talk about when you guys come on.
Can't wait.
Ball, YouTube, Patreon, anywhere you find your podcast, all that stuff. If you like this, check it out and subscribe to the Patreon of the Playback if you enjoyed.
Yeah.
I will. You can find me at Magic City. They give me the main stage on like most weekends, but like you know what? Just go to the Uniball and I kind of like talk.
You
about
link
my
down
schedule.
from there.
Yeah. I schedule some of the stuff, so like you can just go there. Yeah, sure.
All right. We will talk to you guys later.
Peace.
Sick.